sounds like a beverage. Also, you just sound so surprised right now.
Yeah, cuz we're 7 minutes early.
It's almost like I have agency over my life when I have a day off.
Well, that's perfect. I just wasn't ready. I had to put my headphones in.
We don't have to start.
Uh,
I just thought it would. I really wanted to get your reaction, and it was exactly as I expected.
I love this. No, it's perfect. It's so perfect.
Oh boy.
It will be live. The live it'll yes. We'll keep
We're
that
doing
in.
it live.
Yeah. Make it work.
I'm off my game now too because I'm fully prepared and it's like, okay, I know exactly what I wanted to ask you about, but here I am prepared with a bottle of water with my Diet Coke and
What?
with everything fully charged and yeah, I don't know. How was your you're back from the most wonderful place on earth.
I
How
am.
did that go?
It was incredible. It was well worth it. I'm so happy that we did it. My feet, not so much, and my hip, definitely not so much. But other than that, it was wonderful. Everyone had an incredible time. It was so much fun. So much fun.
I was kind of obsessed with your Instagram stories as your Disney week progressed. I gotta know, what is it like pumping at a theme park?
Uh, well, I definitely have parks that I prefer. So let me start
Oh
out
my god.
before my trip. I made sure to do all of the research, and apparently there are a variety of websites with good pumping locations.
Mm-hmm.
And so I confirmed that all of the parks have a place called the Baby Care Center. And these are areas where you can take children to change them or nurse them if they need quiet time. It's air conditioned and there's dedicated pumping areas. Um, Two of the different, well, I'll let me break it down. We'll go through the four major parks. We're gonna go worst to best because
All right, let's go. Let's
that's how
go.
my life is. So to start with, worst is by far Disney Hollywood Studios.
Huh.
They did have separate areas for pumping, so they had a little closet thing that had a curtain in the front. The problem is the waiting area. It's very small. So when the first trip to pump, there was probably 7 adults in this tiny space. And both pumping stations were full, and there were no outlets outside in like the waiting area. And so I had to wait about 15 minutes, which was fine. And eventually I made it, but it just was not as comfortable as some of the other locations, especially when there are that many people waiting. It was just very crowded, very cramped, not great.
So were all of these people breastfeeding or pumping, or is this everybody who is dealing with some sort of childcare?
It At this point in this one, I would say about half of them were either breastfeeding or pumping,
Wow.
or waiting to pump. And then the other half were like the entire family came in to change the baby almost.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very interesting choices that were made, but that's fine. It worked out
See,
eventually.
yeah, I don't want to shame people who like have to do that and like bring in their children, but I've seen it. I know that there are parents out there who are just like, sure, why not? I am projecting a little bit, obviously, because my parents worked very hard to make sure, like, they were privileged enough to, like, okay, we're going to keep as many of our 5 little fuckers away from people who need the space
Right.
more than others.
Yeah, at one time I went into this particular center, there was grandma on a scooter and drove the scooter in. Mom, dad, and some other adult lady with a 4-year-old and probably about a 6 to 7 month old in the tiny space. Now, the day that we did Hollywood Studios, the first day was one of the days that I was also on a scooter because I screwed up my feet so bad that it messed up my hip to where I wanted to cry walking. But I parked that scooter outside because I didn't want to have to navigate it. So I walked the distance into the baby care center to do my pumping. Why somebody chose to drive it, I don't know, because it was a rented scooter too, so it wasn't like they're always on a scooter.
It was a person who's able-bodied enough to get in and out of a space.
Correct. So it was an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Interesting choices. So so Hollywood Studios was definitely lowest on my totem pole. I believe I would probably say that the Magic Kingdom was my second least favorite. So number 3 on my list. They had a large room with, actually the room was about the same size as the waiting room in Hollywood Studios, but this one was specifically just for nursing and pumping. There was a variety of wall plugs, but the way the plugs were situated with the lounge chairs didn't work very well for someone that needed a plug, especially when you have a gigantic plug for a light in one of the wall plugs, which limited where I could sit to pump when it was otherwise full. And it just it made a thing because I didn't pack my battery powered pump adapter because I didn't need it supposedly. So that was a little stressful.
Oh, I just realized for the first half, I thought you were talking about outlets as in there was no place to charge a phone or something, not at, which is I think completely reasonable if you are, in a childcare area, need to do that. But people need to plug in a lot of their mechanical pumps, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's true.
My God.
And like I said, I did not take my battery power because I also did the research and my plane had had the plugs at each seat. So I knew I could just use that plug while on the plane too. So I was like, oh, I totally don't need to bring my battery thing. Then I don't have to deal with batteries on the flight because you're not supposed, I can never remember if you're not supposed to check them or if you're not supposed to bring them on. I can never remember what the rules are for batteries. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm totally fine. I don't need to bring battery powered. And no, that was not accurate.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It worked out. There's 5 parks. What's the third?
So there's actually 4 parks, my dear. But.
Are we not counting? Okay. All right. So we're not counting Typhoon Lagoon.
Oh,
then.
Yes. No, I didn't count the water park because I pumped before we went and I knew we would be I basically just knew that we would be at the water park a short enough period of time that I could go without pumping. So I didn't.
I just wanted to make sure that
yes.
I just wanted to make sure the audience knows that I know how many Disney parks there are.
Well, that's why I was very confused.
Just getting that out of the way.
I was very confused as to what you were talking about because I'm like, no, honey, there's 4. But yes, that makes sense. Okay. No, I just did not pump at Typhoon Lagoon because we were late enough in the day because we let the kids sleep in and we let them recover and kind of breathe. And we knew that it closed at 5. So we were only away from the hotel for about 6 hours, which is enough time to where I wasn't dying. Oh my God, I need to pump. So I didn't take my supplies with me. But number 2 on the list is definitely Epcot. So the reason that it's not higher up is because you have to go way out of the way to get to it. It also doesn't have like separate individual spaces, so you're all kind of pumping together. However, the chairs were more comfortable, and it wasn't as busy. I only had to pump twice there, so it wasn't. I don't know how it could be at other times, but it was very separate from like the kitchen space, and there's an area that they have like television and stuff. So if you have kids that just need to like decompress and breathe, like that's a good space for them. And it's more separate. And so it definitely had a little bit more area space available for other families. And yet there was still a separate place for nursing or pumping.
I'm sort of disappointed to hear that Epcot doesn't basically have magical machines that do it for you. Like, it's supposed to be the way of the future.
Right?
I mean, yeah, like, there should just be, like, an insert nipples here area, and then the magic, the magic is done for you.
And maybe in the actual
unreasonable.
future, that'll be the next part in Spaceship Earth. They'll talk about how the pumping has changed over the years. Alas, it's still BYOP. And then final, of course, there's only 4. And so the final option is Animal Kingdom. And it's not just because that is my favorite park. It was by far the best. So it was the largest. It had the most space. It had both a bigger kids and a little kids room. So there were different like shows running, had more space. It had 8 changing tables and 4 rockers outside, as well as 2 separate rooms with actual doors closing it off. Additionally, it had 2 separate sinks, one that was just for washing your hands and the other that was for like food prep and stuff. And it had a hot and cold water filter like dispenser. So I was able to refill my Camelback bag. Which, by the way, is by far the best purchase that I ever made. That thing was incredible. So happy with that backpack. But yeah, and plus the one at Animal Kingdom was very centrally located, so I didn't feel like I had to walk an hour out of the way to get to and from it. Yeah, it was incredible. So I highly recommend pumping while at Animal Kingdom.
I am kind of, I guess not surprised, but happy that there's even an area for this at all. Because I guess Disney is the most progressive in terms of theme parks in catering to like parents and folks with different needs. But I don't know. I was like fascinated by your journey, and I'm glad that it seems like maybe the reason Animal Kingdom has the best one is because it is the most recently built.
Yeah, well, and I'm guessing because it was planned for it. So funny story, it was created, it was the 20th anniversary of this year that we went, and I actually went to Disney World. The very first time I went was 20 years ago next month. So it was kind of cool that I was like there pretty much kind of almost on my 20th anniversary of going to Disney World, which was kind of cool. But also, so the locations were definitely add-ons. The one at Hollywood Studios, which I'm sure is probably why it's as terrible as it is just like an add-on space in the guest relations area. So it just doesn't, you can tell that it was just, oh, we'll just build a quick thing here type of a situation. And I mean, Epcot, it seems to be like an add-on to, almost like they changed the location of the first aid location. And so it's entirely possible that at Animal Kingdom, when they built it, it was like purposely built there, but I'm not sure. It would be really interesting to know what the decision-making process was and like when the baby care centers actually came into being. So, hey, audience, listeners out there, anyone know? I haven't Googled this. I probably could Google it, but I'd rather have other people tell me what the answer is. It was really interesting. Like, just, it was a totally different trip for me because of this piece. And like how to plan out my day and making sure I stayed hydrated because it was a bajillion degrees. Okay, it was only like 85, but humidity at 100%, which
that's still too much.
Yeah, it was awful. Like when you're like scraping the sweat off at the end of the day, it was nasty. So gross. But yeah, we all survived and had an amazing time. And Avi got to meet Elvis Stitch, which was by far her favoriteest, most favorite part of the entire trip. Like, we waited in line for him, and it was so worth it. And we missed the Hocus Pocus show, which apparently is the best show, like, of any shows on any Disney property. But it was so worth it because this child loves Stitch so much.
The most underrated character.
Right? Oh, my God. Yes. She kept bouncing like every 5 minutes or so in our 30-minute wait. She would randomly turn to me and just start jumping up and down consistently. And just like it was the cutest. And Stitch like loved that she did her Stitch voice for him. And so,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was so cute. And so she saved her money up. The only things she bought were Stitch, including one of them was a 5-pack of Stitch pins. And so that was the very first thing she had to show him.
Nice.
Was, these are my, look at these pins. And like, so he was like, yeah, I got them. And then when she started talking in his voice, like he just was so excited and like gave her his heart. And when he signed her autograph book, put a heart next to it, which is not normal. And it was, I mean, that was it. That was the best part. It was so great to see her excitement and happiness for that. And it was wonderful. It was so wonderful.
If people don't know, all the characters have, their signature.
Right.
But there's also an alternate for folks or typically children who are like extra excited. And the last time I was at Disney, I was with my spouse Maddie and my best friend Kara, and we went to. Unfortunately, there was no Stitch interaction. We tried or experience, but we did like the newest Mickey Mouse one where Mickey talks to you. Ooh. And like in real time. And it freaked me the fuck out. It was the weirdest thing I've ever, and this is, I feel like we haven't talked about how much I love Disney on this show, but oh my God, you go into this very small room and there's Mickey and he's talking to you. There are speakers in his or I'm speculating. I assume were speakers in his costume projecting the signature Mickey voice. It was not it was not like someone like going ho ho, like it was a mechanical noise. And I'm like, is this a synthesizer? Is this? And I didn't want to like ask because there were like, it is like a private area, but I knew there were like children through the thing. And,
Yeah,
I know
and
they'd also not tell me.
Yeah, they won't tell
but
you. They won't tell you.
but I don't know. It was like I've never been the kind of person who is like freaked out by uncanny valley things, but I think it was like the uncanny valley of Mickey, and I was just like
This is
and both
weird.
Maddie and Kara were just so enamored with him and just were saying like, oh my god, like kind of playing along, like obviously playing along, but still sort of like dropping like, this is, Disney is like such a formative experience and blah, 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 blah. Basically thanking, they were like, thank you for your service to the Mickey.
Right.
Basically. And they got little ears next to their signature. I did not. I was like standing in the back like, oh my god. Like I don't know. But I'm
funny.
I'm so glad that she got to meet Stitch, who again, I think he and Baymax, most underrated Disney characters. But like especially Baymax. Stitch is so Ohana.
Ohana means family. Family means no one gets left behind or forgotten.
Oh no, I can't. Oh god.
Yeah, no, yeah, it was, and it was so funny because I haven't seen the sequel or the one with the pink Stitch version.
Stitch has a glitch.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I have yet to see it. I have seen some of the TV show episodes, but I haven't actually seen the one with Pink Stitch. But one of the other children that we were with, whose mom is amazing, and it's so great to see. Her daughter is just incredible, and was so patient the whole time. But she just still has the hardest time with the fact that Stitch had a girlfriend and it had to be pink. And like, there were so many issues with this, and I am 100% like so behind that. But it was really amusing to see how like angry she got with it.
That's so cute.
It was really cute.
Oh my god. I mean that's true. Like one of the coolest things about Lilo and Stitch the movie is that it's essentially a science fiction film set in Hawaii, and the main character is obviously an orphan because you need to be an orphan in Disney if anything good is to happen to you eventually.
At least one of your parents must be dead.
Indeed. But she has the support of her amazing older sister, and I'm saying this because almost every adult I've met who's like my age hasn't seen Lilo and Stitch, and it is fucking infuriating. Anyway, her sister is raising her, I don't believe they say her age, but she's probably like around college age, maybe right after like 24 or something. And there's this whole thing of like the very real case of like, oh, does she need to go into foster care? Is this young woman responsible enough? And that's going on. It's not that it's going on in the background of the movie, but it's like integral to the plot.
Right.
And it was so like, it blew my mind. It's so good.
It's so good. And I love the art style in it. There is not a single hard line or edge in the entire show, which is just, it's so beautiful. It's soft and rounded, and I love my curvy girl characters. And it's just a beautiful film. If you have not seen Lilo and Stitch, get off your butt. It's on Netflix right now. If you don't have Netflix, steal it from someone else, or do the trial and freaking watch Lilo and Stitch, because it is one of the absolute best Disney movies you will ever experience.
And I'm actually, I'm going to say steal the torrent Lilo and Stitch, because don't worry, I will go out right now and buy some Stitch merchandise, perhaps an official Disney Stitch pin. I do have many,
Yes.
but I fully grant you, trust me, I am a 28-year-old woman who will spend enough money on the Stitch franchise that the people who torrent it from this show, no one will be losing money.
Right.
Disney's gonna be okay.
Yeah. I love Stitch, and I love how much my daughter loves Stitch, and I love how special it is to her, and I love how excited she was. Her magic band was Stitch, and so she decided that that was the theme for the trip, was Stitch, and she went all out.
Can you briefly explain what the magic band is? Because this is pretty recent.
Yeah. So a magic band is this kind of magical bracelet that you hook up your Disney ticket to. So if you stay at a Disney property, you get a magic band for free. You can purchase them separately, though. They are like $12 or whatever. And you connect your Disney ticket to it. If you're staying on Disney property, you connect your hotel room, and you can also connect a credit card, so you can pay just by, it's basically Apple Pay, but Disney only. And it's not connected to your phone or anything. But the most important part of it is it's your park ticket, which allows you to get your fast passes connected to the app, connected to the magic band, which is amazing because you just tap it on the thing and it turns green and lets you in. Like it's just magical.
It is truly magical.
It's so magical, and I say that unironically, like 100%. Also with the photo pass. So there's a bunch of professional photographers sprinkled throughout all the parks and with all of the experiences and whatnot. And after they take your pictures, you connect, they'll scan your band, and then it's just in the app. So you can pick and choose which photos you want to purchase, or if you have, you can get the pass and get them all to download, or if you're an annual pass holder, that's part of the included price, but it's all just kind of pretty amazing. And so I highly recommend, if you are planning a Disney trip, unfortunately, it's just at Walt Disney World in Florida. Although supposedly it's supposed to happen in Disneyland at some point in the future. We'll see how that works. But yes, I highly recommend you do the magic band. It truly is magical.
It's on the one hand, I was like, okay, this is just a thing that's going to make people spend so much more money because it's just a flawless, completely smooth system. This is, no one's going to be thinking about what they're buying. This is brilliant and evil. And then I got there and I was like, yep, all of those things I said were true, and I love it. It's wonderful. It's also, it takes so much stress out of, because really you're going to spend too much money in Disney World no matter what. I feel like there's a sliding scale for everybody in the world. Bill Gates could go there and spend more than he wanted to.
Right. That's why when I got home, I was shocked to come out under budget.
Oh my God, same. I did the same thing because I was so afraid of the magic band.
Yes. Well, we stayed not at an official Disney property. We stayed at one of the, I don't even know what to call it, but we stayed at Shades of Green, which is the property that is actually owned by the military. The Army actually owns this. And it's on Disney property. It's right next to the Polynesian. And the only way you can stay there is if you are sponsored by someone in the military. They have to be a certain level or higher. And the hotel rooms are $110 a night.
Damn.
And it has bus service to and from the parks, and you can deliver from the parks to the hotel. The only thing is it doesn't have the magic band for the doors like for into your hotel room, and it also doesn't have the ability to connect to the credit card, but that's fine because it was still absolutely incredible.
It's, oh man, I don't know. There's just something about Disney World where I'm sure we're going to have another
Oh yeah,
episode
we're gonna have at
about
least
this.
one.
At least, like, I was gonna say at least like a dozen.
Well, yeah.
But in also in terms of accessibility, like
Oh
I've
yeah.
never seen so much thought put into, which is honestly why I'm really disappointed about the pumping areas.
Mm-hmm.
But I like you can really tell they're like, okay, we want these people's money. We want everybody's money, and we're not going to discriminate because
Yes.
like,
We love all the money.
we
Yeah.
love all the money. And like I truly am trying to sound not cynical about this, but like if you're going to be a gigantic capitalist machine, like yeah, make sure everybody is happy. Well,
Right. Right. No, it's so true. And we traveled with there was about at one point there were 14 of us in our group. We did not all stick together the whole time. But my brother came with us, and he rented a scooter outside of the parks because he knew he would need it every day. He is not retired because Marines don't retire. Inactive Marine. I still don't know what to call him. Anyways, he's kind of broken, but we still love him. And so he had a scooter every day that he was there. Definitely needed it. Still, even with the scooter, had some rough times. But so we planned in breaks and stuff. But it also, on top of my pumping planning, we had this as a plan as well, because even with the scooter, like there's still a lot of work into it, and there's definitely some rides that he couldn't do for himself physically, but all of the signs for the rides, they all tell you like what type of ride it is. So if you get motion sickness, if you like can't handle vibrations, for size considerations, for example, we rode Flights of Passage, which in the Pandora section, which is holy crap, what an incredible ride for a mediocre movie, but the ride is insane. But to make sure that there's no embarrassment, they have one of the little, so you sit on kind of like a motorbike type thing. And they have one outside of the ride to sit on and test and make sure that you will fit on it. So for different sized folks, you're not embarrassed by waiting in the 3-hour line to get there only to find out that you can't fit.
And that is amazing because I just assumed that it was like a fun testing. Maybe it was there, like it wasn't finished when I was there. I didn't even know that's what they were for. Which is even better, I think, because wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
and
it's so cool.
I'm not saying that like Disney's perfect, obviously.
Oh God, no. They have significant issues. A major portion of it is how well or not well they pay their employees, which is a whole other conversation. There's definitely like some major issues that they have. However, they know how to get your money, and they know how to get it in a good way. And being like the autonomy of cast members to make sure that you're having as magical a time as possible is pretty awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they can just, I'm trying to think. Oh no, I did have one magical experience. I got my Dole Whip for free, which was kind of cool.
Oh.
Yeah, the guy was just like, "Oh, it's on the house." I was like,
"Oh,
thanks," which was fantastic. But in the past, we've had like, when last time we rode in Disney World, my dad started talking to somebody who was a cast member off duty, just sitting there, and he like got us fast passes to the Seven Dwarfs ride at Disneyland or at Magic Kingdom, which was awesome. And I'm just thinking of back when I went to Disneyland 3 years ago. My brother was randomly talking to a cast member who just stopped by, and this guy's job is just magical experiences. Like, all he does is go around and talk to people and then be able to escort them into awesome places, which is kind of like the best job ever. Can you imagine that being your gig? Is you just get to make people's days?
I know. It's wild. I mean, I just think about I don't know, like as once after we burn capitalism to the ground, it's like, how do we I'm obviously straddling the line, or I'm trying to straddle the line between, oh my God, this is an amazing, beautiful thing, and also wanting to tear down the establishment.
Right.
And
it's a delicate balance.
And not like well, oh yeah, I'm not like worried about what I'm going to say on a podcast. This is truly like an internal struggle of like, I love it so much. There are so many positive things. And you can obviously there's the whole discourse of like separating the art from the artist and all that. But
right.
like, what happens when it's not an artist? It's just a institutional machine of like, I mean, it's Apple basically.
Yeah.
Like, oh boy. And now I just want to go to Disney World so bad right now. It hurts. Oh,
okay.
Gosh.
Can we go after WWDC next year?
I've seriously been. Well, wait, no. Oh, you mean Disneyland?
Yeah, not Disney
but
World.
It's Disneyland.
I know.
It's
which is still okay. So there's something really special about Disneyland.
Because you learn how shitty it is compared to Disney World.
It's so funny because there's less shitty parts in it. So I love the Indiana Jones ride.
Fair, very good,
which is apparently the same track as the dinosaur ride at Animal Kingdom, like the exact same layout and everything, which is fine. But I like the overlay of Indiana Jones better. Also, they have the Tarzan treehouse as opposed to the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse, which Avi likes way better, which is like understandable.
Yeah. I'm wondering, the thing that I am worried to say about, have I told you my Disney World wheelchair story?
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to try to frame this in, again, how great the accessibility experience was at Disney. This was, oh God, it was almost 10 years ago. Holy shit. Oh my God. Because it was my, it was 8 years ago because it was my senior year of high school. And oh God, death is marching for us all. Anyway, and my grandma, she doesn't need she in fact still doesn't need what would, I guess, be traditionally called a walker, like one that it does not have wheels, but you use like all four things, like four. Do people, is that what they're called? Walkers? Is that what people call them? Now I'm thinking so. Like white walkers and like, but so she doesn't need one of those, but eventually her back started hurting. And, now these are fairly common, the kind of like pushy walker type things. It almost looks like a tricycle, and they're awesome, and that's like perfect for her. But at the time, they were like, she I don't even know if they existed, and she was like, oh hey, actually, can I have a wheelchair? And they're like, oh yeah, totally, this is perfect. But so she was so happy, and they didn't make a big deal out of it at all. And then she was able to walk around the parks with us totally fine, with the caveat of it needed to be a little bit heavier in order to help her. Like basically she needed a heavy thing to push. It's like there's a people are, I'm sorry that I don't know the right term for what exactly she has now. But so my mom and I took turns sitting in the wheelchair and
letting her push you.
yes, which I don't think is like bad or I don't think it's problematic to help my grandma and for us to take turns sitting in a wheelchair.
Well, and you weren't expecting or asking for special treatment. I mean, if you're going to get it, because let's be honest, there is definitely like specific lines that you go into for some rides. There's like special choices and there is some special treatment you can get.
It's not special treatment is like calling it oh my God, I'm going to hell. Like, and I did not try. It's not like we tried to get in front of lines or anything.
Right.
We just assumed that we could get into the regular line and like, which happened initially. And like my mom and I would like stand up and we'd close up the wheelchair because, we weren't walking. However, anytime that we got even kind of close to a ride, a cast member would come up and be like, oh, here we are, not like making a big deal of it, but just like, this is the routine.
Yeah.
And like I would like go to get up and they're like, oh no, don't worry about it, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, how do I
how do I do this? Yes.
And so then luckily there wasn't a ton of like there weren't like a ton of folks with wheelchairs, or like we were definitely cutting in front of a ton of able-bodied people. And you know what, my grandma did have like a hard time walking, so okay, I still felt like shit. Like, we got like dinner reservations earlier, so we had to like go to a separate area, like sneak out of this wheelchair and like help my grandma walk to a place because we felt so bad. Like, not. And especially at dinner, because there are a ton of folks who, need space. We didn't want to take up a ton of space at a restaurant.
Yeah.
But before all of this had happened, at one point, I was just still sitting in the wheelchair. And there were a ton of, this was actually at Epcot. And you know how Epcot has a bunch of those large bridges either to cross into like different country areas or, yeah, you've just been there. What am I saying?
Yes, I am very familiar with Epcot. Not as familiar as most of the party because we only really went to Epcot once because it's not very much for the kids. The kids were bored. But yes, we did attend.
And and also it is sometimes boring for adults, which is why we didn't, or rather I find the country areas not as interesting, only because they have amazing authentic food, and you know me, I just want to eat crackers and birdseed in a quarter.
I don't even think because when we were there it was Food and Wine Festival, and so there were even more food items, and most of them I don't think you would eat. Yeah.
And, especially so when you're trying to get out of a place like that, but there are tons of people around. And I am in the wheelchair, and my mom and my grandma had were like walking across this bridge that has an upward slope. And they're like, okay, Alex, come on. And I was surrounded by folks, and some of these folks were also in wheelchairs. And I'm like, I can't just stand up right now and be like, which I mean, I could have, because there are people who need wheelchairs sometimes and not others. But, I was 17 and just like, oh my God, what do I do? And so then I'm like, okay, I am just going to wheel myself out of this situation. But then it goes to the bridge, and it was hard for me. It was a very steep incline, so I was going very slow.
Oh no.
And my mom and my grandma, they were like across the bridge and like heckling me, being like, oh my God, Specifically because like it was a joke from earlier, like my mom and I were like arm wrestling, and it was like this whole joke of like Alex is a weakling and is not strong, and I think it was specifically because my grandma's like, oh, you need more meat on your bones. She's one of those. But so I'm trying to cross this bridge and I'm just going very slowly. And my grandma and my mom don't notice it, but there are clearly people who are looking at them horrified.
Oh, I'm sure. I am
they're
sure
looking at me.
Oh my gosh.
And so people are like walking across the. At this point, there was just a bunch of able-bodied people walking across the bridge back and forth, and they were just like staring at me as if like my husband had just beaten me or something. I thought someone was gonna call like DCFS on my I don't know. Sorry.
No, that's the Department of Homeland Security. Children's Services.
Yeah, because it was clear, like I did look like a youth, and I was a youth, and oh god, it was so bad. I've never done anything worse, and I don't think my mother and my grandmother have ever done anything worse as what appeared to be openly mocking somebody in a wheelchair as they struggled to cross a bridge at Epcot. And then I get over there and they still don't really know what has transpired. And they're like, oh my God, what took you so long? And at that point, there was nobody around us. So they did not know what they had just done. And I was like, okay, guys, let's go. And then my mom's like, well, get out of she's like, okay, well, let's, and like, so the joke's over, and she's like, okay, let's pack up the chair. And then I'm like, no, we can't. And I was like paranoid. I'm like, we need to, grandma, push me. And so then of course people are passing by and I'm like, grandma, seriously, no, you need to push me. So then it looks like I am like this horrible teenager who's like, oh my God, granny, get behind me, bitch. And there was no way. Anyway, that is the story of the time I was terrible, real terrible at Disney World, or rather my grandmother and my mother were. And I hope that they hear this again and I can continue to shame them because I've been doing it for a decade. Man. And now every time I'm at, this is terrible, but I am at Disney World a lot. And so whenever I'm with a friend who is using a wheelchair, a scooter, they're like, come on, keep up. And I'm you know what, I'm glad that I can be an able-bodied person who is the butt of that joke. But if somehow you were one of those people watching a 17-year-old struggle across a bridge, I promise my mom is not an abusive ableist bitch, because wow, that's what she looked like. Oh boy, I'm gonna send this part to my mom. I'm still mad about it. The end.
Yay!
Oh God.
Oh man. So this is nothing what the episode was supposed to be about. Which is fine. I mean, it's still good.
You're going to talk about routines.
Yeah, and specifically a botched routine.
Oh, a big old botched routine. Well, people can look forward to that next week because really, this was like your Disney World routine.
Yes.
And it was a catch up on that. And then next week, everybody, you can hear about my old big botched routines. But spoiler, it ended up okay because of a certain task management app, which really should sponsor us. I should get on.
You should get on that.
Hey, Keith, come on, Keith and Ken. They're really great. The Omni group is great. I don't want to make fun of them.
No, they're pretty fantastic.
I actually think my friend Daniel of the Omni group listens. Hi, Daniel. Thank you again for making
yay.
Product.
I love you, Omni group.
I'm just always going to assume that people listen to this show now because I don't know why. I truly just think of it as a time where I get to once a week that I get to catch up with my friend Kathy. But now people bring it up a lot. And I was like, oh no. Like I was talking to Quinn the other day and she's like, oh, I love it when you mention me. And then at some point, I think Merlin was like, "Oh, the thing you said on the thing," and I'm like, So now I think you're right there.
I'm good. I'm fine. This is fine. Yeah, I had a friend text me who goes, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize you were doing a podcast with Alex Cox. I love Alex so much, and I heard about you on Do My Friday," and I'm like, hi, Ben.
Podcasting is weird.
It's very weird. But speaking of podcasting, I'm going to take off because I am going to a live episode of Stuff You Missed in History class with my mom.
Oh my gosh, Kathy Campbell, have so much fun, and I'm so glad that you're passing on the podcast love. Oh, and I think Maddie's home.
Oh, perfect timing. Yay. I love you, Alex Cox, and I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.